Let me introduce myself to you. This is who I am. No more, no less.
Sponsored by
doing something that maybe couldn't normally be done or nobody has taken an interest at. I like giving back to the ones that nobody wants. Hi, welcome to Seeing the Need, Finding the Solution 2012. And we're going to be talking for quite a while on mental illness, but the specific aspect of mental illness is going to be threefold. It centers around integrated healthcare, it centers around health disparities, understanding health disparities, understanding whole health, and treating the whole person as well. And back with us, which is no stranger, and a pleasure to have on the show, leading off the campaign as the title sponsor, which is People of Color Network, Tomas Leon, CEO, and welcome, Tomas.
Tk you very much. Appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks for the long break as well, so we had to get a little time to gear up for this next campaign. Let's get right into it a little bit. Give a little background on the health disparities aspect of how that became, how it came to fold.
Well, one of the main health disparities that we're focusing on right now has to do with people who are experiencing and suffering with mental illness. And you may know, and the audience may know, but I'll keep sharing this information. You know, 1 in 4 individuals throughout the country experience and suffer with mental illness. And so what does that mean to you and to me? That means that you don't have to look too far than your own family, your own coworkers, workplace, community, neighborhood, to understand and see the impact of someone that's suffering with mental illness. Now, people don't always get the help that they need to address that challenge that they're dealing with, to get on that path of recovery and resiliency to living well. But the disparity exists with the 1 in 4 individuals where their lifespan is cut short on a national average by 25 years. And in Arizona, it's more closer to 30 years. So we're seeing an epidemic throughout the country, a crisis in an area that we need to focus on when it comes to people with mental illness, making sure that we extend their life expectancy instead of that life being cut short. 40% of individuals that experience mental illness smoke, over 70% suffer from a chronic health condition and often die because of that chronic health condition. In some other cases, sometimes individuals are succumbed by the mental illness and other challenges where they commit suicide. So we're really focusing on people that are experiencing suffering with mental illness and trying to bring a focus on that and provide the support that they need to turn that challenge that they're having into a life of recovery and healing and living well.
You know, and when before I knew what mental illness really was, while I was actually mentally ill, but you know, growing up, mental illness to me was always portrayed as somebody who was crazy, somebody who had lost their mind. You know, and I didn't understand obviously until I got in later on in life. But for the 16-year-old out there, for the parent out there that doesn't necessarily know what mental illness is, a couple ideas of what mental illness involves. It doesn't just necessarily mean somebody who is schizophrenic or bipolar as well, too. Some examples of mental illness that fall underneath that category that your mother, brother, aunt, uncle, friend, neighbor might have.
Well, you have, this is where we're trying to address that stigma and that bias out there. Sometimes when you think of mental illness and helping people in the community, you think of people who are homeless. Not all people who are homeless have mental illness. Right. A good portion of folks do. Some of the recent data I saw, about 30% of the folks who are homeless are struggling with mental illness. So that's a bias that I hear a lot that's important to dispel, that all people who are homeless have mental illness. But when you look at your own family, your own workplace, and coworkers, and people close to you, knowing that 1 in 4 individuals, someone close to you is probably struggling, and often struggling in silence with that mental illness. And sometimes we don't want to address those things when we start seeing signs like somebody is moving into isolation and not coming around coworkers or coming around family or friends, and they're staying in their room a lot, or which may be signs of depression and those kinds of things. And their eating habits change significantly, or they lose a lot of weight in a short period of time that's not explainable. And their thoughts are not coming together, and it's very difficult to communicate with them. They're agitated for some reason, and it's not explainable. And so there's a number of different signs, usually going off of your intuition when you're interacting with someone that you know or a loved one, and you have a sense that something's not going right with them, and it may be that they're dealing with a life challenge that they can get through. But it also may mean that if that's a sustained behavior that they're having and something that you can observe, that means they may have something more serious that they need to get help for. And so it's important to get over any apprehensions you have about talking to that person about, hey, this is what I'm observing, and I'm concerned about you, and I want to make sure that you're okay, and can I connect you with some help or encourage you to go get some help?
You know, patience, love, and tolerance, as they say, and you hit on it. It's something so simple as depression. And I don't mean simple in reference to dealing with it, but the most socially acceptable probably of them all. People don't always associate depression with mental illness, and depression isn't always mental illness. But when you talk about that isolation, and you know, I was doing some research, and you know, 80% of America is in debt as a consumer. And you have to wonder how many of those 80% fall into that mode of depression with the economy and things that they've went through over the last couple of years. And you hit on it. Not everybody homeless is mentally ill. And there are some people out there that actually are not homeless either, that suffer from mental illness and may not even know it as well, too. Yeah. So, you know, it covers the both end of the spectrum. Some other things that I got some research on after we had talked with Richard Clark from Magellan, and you had mentioned it as well, too. Arizona is higher, more than 30 years. They die more 30 years younger. 40 to 60% of those with schizophrenia suffer from overweight. 15% diabetes, and have an unemployment rate of 78%. And you know, there is a big, large number of people that once they get balanced and treated, and they are treated with that whole person, very talented people.
Absolutely.
and have skills that can contribute to our community as well.
I wanted to just comment on
Sure.
that because one of the other biases and stigma we deal with is that people think, well, someone has mental illness, therefore they're not going to be a good employee or a good parent or a good brother or sister or a neighbor or whatever that may be, and that's a mindset that continues to keep people with a label and keep people isolated.
Sure.
It's important that we understand that they're people, and they're our neighbors, our friends, our family members, our coworkers, and they have every potential to be successful in life. And given the right treatment and support and skill development, they're able to continue to live a functional quality of life and be successful at whatever they choose to do in life. And so that's important that we keep ourselves focused on that, and then making sure that we create the opportunities for them to get the help they need to reach their fullest potential in life.
And what a privilege and responsibility you have to be able to find creative ways and ways that are effective to reach those people that don't know maybe that there's services out there, that do not understand that there's elements available for them, especially in this economy. And I can't get off of two things that you've always said. One, people have physical health, which means people also have mental health. Everybody does.
Right.
And the one thing that you just said, they're people. Whether it's your neighbor, whether it is your sister, brother, aunt, uncle. And it comes in that element of, in reference to the way that I think of loving and being patient and tolerant and caring for that other individual. And how do you do that to be effective if you don't know where to go? So with that in mind, launching off the 2012 campaign, where do we go from here? And talking about They Are People, this is Tomas Leon from People of Color Network, and we'll be right back after these commercials.
There's no stigma or discrimination against the heart, the liver, the kidney, even the gallbladder. Doesn't even have a job.
Yesterday, depression was kept in the dark,
And bipolar disorder was your best friend's mother's problem.
but the tide is turning.
We're stopping the stigma.
We're coming out.
Our goal is to make the discussion of mental dis-ease cool and trendy.
No kidding?
Me too. No kidding.
Me too.
No kidding.
Me too.
It's time we gave the all-American brain some peace of mind.
Living with mental illness is a challenge, but it makes me stronger.
Some would say I'm crazy. I would say I'm enlightened.
Some would say I have a disability. I would say I have special abilities.
Some would say I'm far from ordinary, but I'd say I'm extraordinary.
1 in 4 adults are affected by a mental illness.
To learn more, visit oneinfor.info.